I would say the one thing I've enjoyed most, because I'll be honest, as a whole, I'm not a fan of Gen 9 compared to other generations.
Yeah.
But the one thing I really do like is the diversity of hyper offense. So this is kind of the first gen where hyper offense has really been a viable option consistently.
One of our favorite aspects of your channel is not just the competitive side, but also the team building, theory crafting side of channel as well. And so we're kind of curious, what are maybe some of the biggest team building pet peeves that you have?
I'll make it a simple one. Use priority. Use a lot of priority.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Skill Link podcast, where we chat and get to know passionate content creators, competitive players, and all voices who continue to make the Pokemon community incredible. And today's guest is a special one. He is found frequently scaling the ladder on Showdown, even having hit #1 multiple times. Also sharing his expertise via in-depth YouTube videos and personalized coaching. From team building guides, playing tips, and other fun competitive Pokemon content, it's current Gen 9 OU legend, Pinkacross. How are you doing, my friend?
Hello. I'm doing well. How are you guys today?
We are awesome.
We're doing really good. It's we were talking a little bit off before but it's a holiday, so Josh and I both have no work today, so that was a really nice surprise. And it was funny. We were actually because we were planning, just setting up schedules with you last week when we were getting this all ready, and we were actually just finished a stream or something like that, and then all of a sudden you were like, "Oh, hey, can we actually do Monday?" And we both, Josh and I, were like, "Oh yeah, it's a holiday." So it was an extra. You reminded us that we had to work, so it was great.
That's perfect. Yeah. I've got a break from classes, so I'm happy too.
Nice. What's your class schedule looking like? Are you pretty busy?
Yeah, it's not the worst semester. I'm currently going for an engineering degree.
Nice.
So
very nice.
That's awesome.
But it's to the point where it hasn't gotten too nasty yet, but it's it's still definitely intense. A lot of math, a lot of very technical classes.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, but this semester is not the worst. It's manageable.
For sure.
That's good. Mm-hmm. I like that. And as we're kind of getting, into the conversation, things like that, I was kind of curious, new year, new semester, and all these things. Curious, what is one of your New Year's resolutions that you have this year? Anything that was kind of fun? Anything that, you're just like, I've been wanting to do this for a while, so let's get on it. What's one of your New Year's resolutions?
Yeah, well, the main one is I want to finally eat more because I've been trying to, put on muscle for a while. Like it's like kind of a lot of exercise and bodybuilding is a hobby of mine. But I'm one of those people that like, if I sat on a couch all day and ate like 4,000 calories, that's like my break even point. I need to eat so much food. So I'm starting to like really just put in my schedule, like at least 4 meals a day. So I actually gain weight.
It's hard.
I think, it's not fun either. Cause you're like, I don't want to eat more, but you have to, you have to.
Yeah.
So, that's one of my resolutions. I'm going to do it. And just whether I feel like it or not, I'm going to eat eat some chicken and get it down.
There you go. The protein,
that's what I feel like.
Carbs.
Chicken's kind of a cheat code when you're trying to do that kind of stuff. Get jacked and getting better health. I like that.
Oh yeah,
I have
a there's nothing one. Like it.
I just recently got I've been wanting I've just been interested in boxing classes just for fun, and so I was like, I don't have the money to do like full on boxing, so I got myself a punching bag. We're gonna try and get fit as well, more exercise, and I was like, I just gotta set up my punching bag and we'll have fun with it.
We'll punch stuff.
Very
punch
nice.
stuff for fun.
Yeah. No, I get that with I'm one of my big things. I love so I work remotely, so working from home, so being able to go to the gym and lift weights is kind of one of my ways to get out of the house. And I know whenever it's like bulking season, it's tough. I totally hear you on that, to be able to put on that extra weight when you're trying to do that. Luckily, as I'm hitting my late 20s and turning 30 here in a couple of years, metabolism slowing down, so it's a little bit easier to gain weight compared to like when I was 22 or 21, whatever. But I hear it regardless. You definitely do gotta pack it in. So that's awesome though. So kind of going off of this, what other interests and hobbies are you a part of? What kind of particularly inspires you, whether it's movies, TV shows, again, a hobby, something that you kind of do in your free time, anything like that?
Yeah, well, I'm really into philosophy. I like just, pondering the big questions. I think it's just a really fun activity. I guess there's no really further explanation needed there. I sometimes will meet up with people that also enjoy such discussion and just, talk about things. So that's nice.
That's awesome.
I'm I'm a mediocre gymnast, so I've been working on that.
Okay. No way. That's sweet.
So that's been just something I've been doing for about a year and a half now. And just this coming semester will be my first time competing in it. So we'll see how that goes.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah. Let's go. That's awesome. Congrats on that. That's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where the barrier for entry is 0. Like you could go and do somersaults and, that would be your thing. But my goal is to put on, a respectable performance and get a medium low score. I'd be happy with that. That's the goal.
I love it.
Just that's something awesome. That's reasonable,
an attainable goal. Yeah, I love it.
Is this kind of, and this is just me not knowing, but so with the gymnastics, this is going to be kind of a specific category. I remember in the Olympics, the what's it called, there's that one where they're on the balance beams, or with the rings and stuff like that, or is it just kind of more the performance side of the gymnastics as well? What kind of category are you working at?
Yeah, so there are 2 events I'm considering, and that's sort of, you may have a good description of it. You can choose to compete in certain events. The one I'm definitely going to be competing in is floor, which when you see the people just kind of, flipping around and doing the long line of flips, that's what floor is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's pommel horse, which is sort of you're swinging your legs around and you've got 2 grips that you're working on. And that one, I don't know if I'll be ready at the time, but hopefully.
That's super cool. I like the I feel like the discipline of those specific gymnastics is often not understood, and so I kind of love hearing that you're going for it, and I just think that's super cool. And I mean, obviously doing the flips and on the floor is going to be awesome. So best of luck
really
to
you. Yeah.
That's
especially just
cool.
having a not stressful problem. You have all these math classes. It's what happens if you don't understand this math? Well, you're in trouble. But what happens if you don't get a flip? You try it the next day. It's challenging, but not stressful.
I love it. Mm-hmm. That's a great way to put it.
That's super cool. That's awesome. And so I guess now let's kind of get into the Pokemon side of things, So talk to us about kind of your Pokemon journey. Maybe what were the first games that kind of got you into the series, or the first thing that got you into the series? How did Heracross become your mascot? Things like that.
Yeah, so my first game was, I think it was either black or white. I think it was black.
Nice.
And it wasn't new at the time, but I was still really excited to play it. And I remember I chose Snivy because I like snakes, still do to this day.
Excellent.
And I'm happy to see Superior ruining the current Gen 9 OE
I was going to say.
I know I shouldn't be happy to see it, but I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was just a really, really fun game. And so I've got siblings and they played Pokemon as well. Cool. So just being able to experience that with them was really fun for me. And so I think after that, maybe after that kind of got an older game, which was Soul Silver. And I think that's still the number one. I'd say Heart Gold, Soul Silver are the best Pokemon games to this day.
Yeah.
That was great. And after that, I just, kept following kept playing whatever the new game was until I was around 12, 13 or so. And then I got really interested in the competitive side of things. And started playing that, and that was really fun.
That's awesome.
I love that.
It's cool to hear. Oh yeah, sorry, you go, Logan.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Let's hear your thought. I had another quick question. You're good.
Yeah, I was going to say it's cool to hear how, because Black and White is such an interesting entry point into the series. We've mentioned this before on previous episodes, but it's such a unique game. Not only competitively, the meta itself, the Gen 5 is so unique between weather, between moves that were available back then and so forth, but even just the game itself, the the basic black and white Pokédex is all Unova Pokemon. And they really integrated some really interesting things that have kind of become mainstays now, which is, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but almost 15 years later, I can't believe black and white have been out for almost 15 years now. I think it's 2010 was black and white, right?
I think somewhere around that, yeah.
I think something like that, because I think Heart Gold, Soul Silver were 2011. No.
Those were earlier.
Yeah, those were Heart Gold, Soul Silver 2010. I think black and white were 2011. Yeah. Okay, I got this.
They're like 2011, 2012. I can't remember exactly, but
either way, it's just crazy. I think it's a cool entry spot into the series. So I love hearing that.
Yeah, it's I forgot. As for the how the Heracross became my mascot, so I was just looking. It was actually, this account was originally an alternate account. I was just looking for something new to ladder on. And, I was like, shiny Heracross is pink. So I put in Pinkacross. And then I see that it's the exact color of the shiny Heracross. I'm like, oh, that's a funny coincidence. I like that, So then I just kept playing on the alt so long, I forgot the password to my old account. And I'm like, well, okay, this is who I am now.
I am now Pinkacross.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I love it. And I think it's a good. I think Heracross is such kind of an underrated mon too. So I kind of love the love there, because and I mean that you're right. I had totally forgotten that the shiny was pink, and that's like such a cool shiny that it gets, especially kind of just for like, because I feel like a lot of the bugs get like a kind of a greener or something like that, but like that bright pink on Heracross, who's such a monster just to begin with. I kind of love that shout out there, and just kind of love the little the logo that you get. So I love that.
Yeah. The logo is also a friend of mine, the guy Showdown called Shock designed it for me. So that was really nice of him to do.
That's awesome. That's sweet. So now, kind of talking more about the competitive side of thing in your content. Again, it's a treat to go through this stuff, because Logan and I trace a lot of our friendship back to just having fun on the ladder, whether it was random battles or kind of doing some fun stuff with teams, because we used to work together. We worked at a suit shop, as I mentioned. We in our bio, and we would just hop on in our free time if it was the slow season, or if we were closing and no one was coming in or whatever, and we just hop on the ladder and and mess around with people and have fun with that.
Yeah,
so
that sounds great.
It's very very nostalgic, and that's why I think it's so fun to do this sort of thing. And now here we are years later, and we're doing like a draft league and stuff like that, and consuming this content all the time. So I think what's been so fun about this specific generation of games is that it's been one of the most dynamic and fast-paced metagames that we've had.
That's for
especially
sure.
The last few months. I mean, we've had, with the Teal Mask, with Indigo Disc, and even like these mini updates, like we just had Petrarump become available just the other day. What have you enjoyed the most about the zaniness that is Gen 9?
I would say the one thing I've enjoyed most, because I'll be honest, as a whole, I'm not a fan of Gen 9 compared to other generations.
Yeah.
But the one thing I really do like is the diversity of hyper offense. So this is kind of the first gen where hyper offense has really been a viable option consistently. Like previously, like in Gen 8, it's very gimmicky, it's inconsistent, and there are maybe a couple teams that can really pull it off well, and a very few models of teams that work. But this generation, you can run Aurora Veil, you can run screens, you could for a while run Sticky Web. There are so many viable hyper offense Pokemon. Using Tera especially just makes that playstyle a lot better. So it feels like that's now a playstyle that I can really engage and build with, rather than just some bad team style you use in low ladder when you're doing a suspect run.
Right.
That's really cool, and I kind of like that shout out too, to be able to understand, because this really has been. I don't know, like, because like we're in this kind of unique style of Pokemon games nowadays, where we get the DLCs, and it's not like just that single meta from the one time game, but we get updates, we get and Pokemon get new moves and things like that. We were chatting with some friends the other day, because we're doing a Gen 9 draft league right now. We're doing Nat Dex format, so it's like crazy, right? You have all the mechanics and things like that in there. but like we're already kind of mid-season, getting ready for our finals, and we just barely had a couple releases, and so it's like this is really interesting to see how the with the DLCs and the new way that the Pokemon company is actually releasing Pokemon content from Gen 8 and Gen 9, how that does kind of change up the meta game and still kind of keep it fresh. Like kind of like you were saying, like the offensive capability of this game has been incredibly interesting, especially with slightly new additions. You have menaces like Incineroar coming back in. You have Lando T joining the fray again, and even like the new Paradox Pokemon, which are incredibly interesting as well. And so kind of seeing that evolution through time, like just with this short, I mean, the game hasn't even been live. Has it been a year? Maybe like
it's been like a little over a year. Yeah, it's like a year and a couple months.
Because like I remember with Sword and Shield, like I kind of felt like I don't know, I could be wrong on this one because I know we did have some updates as well with that, but like once, I mean, it's like I just kind of felt like the metagame did not change nearly as much as this one has. Like I kind of, I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I just feel like that this one has been constantly evolving. I feel like almost every 2 to 3 months, like you got, and then obviously new regulations are part of that, but I just feel like everybody's still like figuring out the ins and outs of this game, in Gen 9.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you're definitely right that we've never had a metagame change this fast before. And that's basically the DLCs and bans have seen to that. I mean, we haven't really had what would be considered like a stable metagame, and maybe feels like about like a year or so. It's been crazy. Pretty intense.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get that with I'm sure they'll do some updates here and there. I'm not sure. I'd be kind of surprised if they did more DLC between now and the next game, because I think they're going to start focusing, whether it's a different studio or whatever, but I'm sure the Pokemon company is going to be gearing up for what I would assume be some remakes here at the end of this year. I'm sure we'll get an announcement here in the next couple of months, but so what I'm assuming is that the metagame is going to stabilize here for the next year and a half or so before the next generation will be announced. So I'm excited to see what that stabilization looks like and what ends up being viable, what ends up not being viable, because I feel like literally every at least since Teal Mask has come out, I'll get videos popping up of like, hey, this person's being or this Pokemon's on the ban list right now, they're being suspect tested, this Pokemon's broken right now, use it before they ban it, or this strategy's kind of viable right now, this, that, and the other. And and I think with it being so hyper offense focused, I think a lot of that just falls on not only power creep, but just, it happens every generation. New abilities, new moves, new Pokemon get access to these abilities. Base stat spreads are insane nowadays as well. And then on top of that, you have just the overall gimmick of Terastalization, which I love. I love a good defensive Tera type, but when you're able to stack a Tera type in your favor offensively, I mean, it just kind of busts the ceiling open of what kind of damage you can output. So, like you said, it's been kind of mixed as far as how people feel about that, but I think you can't deny it's been crazy. So
it's been crazy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Kind of speaking. Oh no, you go. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to launch into a Tera discussion, but is this the right time? Okay, well,
you go for it.
Yeah, so Tera's been really interesting, because I remember at the beginning of the generation, I thought, okay, this is cool, this is fun. We got new options, and it's like it's not insanely broken like Dynamax. I'm glad we finally have like an interesting generation mechanic. But then as it progressed, I noticed that in every single metagame we got, the kind of the lower tier viability was killed. Like, it's like, I don't know if you've noticed the amount of OU teams that are just OU Pokemon these days. It's you really can't use things from lower tiers anymore. And I think a lot of that has to do with Tera. Mainly because, so if you can imagine, so here's like just a little example to kind of illustrate the point. Sylveon is a fun Pokemon that used to be, you used to see it sometimes here and there in Generation 8. Was never a big thing, but you could use it. Gen 9, I was trying to team build with SRN. He's showdown mod in the OU room. We work together on teams sometimes, and he said, okay, I've got this got this Sylveon set that can always live a +2 Life Orb Excalibur hit, and it can one shot in return with Hyper Voice every time. I'm like, that's great. We test it. The Excalibur Teras. We stop using the Sylveon.
It's game over.
Because, they'll Tera Steel, they'll Tera Ice or something, and then you won't kill anymore. So it's like, suddenly you have this thing where these niches, because usually when these, lower tier Pokemon really emerge and thrive is in a time of stability. Because you can prep for specific things, you can counter specific things. But with this Tera, the only way that you can really consistently beat these things is incredible stats. So you've got really. So how do you beat the Excalibur? Will you switch in the 100 HP or like 120 defense King Gambit? You've got to use these things because that they can handle the unpredictability of whatever the heck your opponent is about to do with Tera. Yeah. But the lower stat Pokemon that really use things like typing to their advantage to kind of have that niche role is just kind of been killed.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Wow.
And on top of that, so there are some other factors, like it's not entirely Terra's fault. Like, rising power level can sometimes do that. A lot of Pokemon losing Toxic can do that. I think just like being able to poison something could kind of make anything in a sense viable. And that being gone is not ideal. Moveset cuts often hurt some of those Pokemon more. But I would say the main reason for why we don't really see that same creativity that we used to in OU is probably mostly Tera.
Right.
That's really interesting.
It's interesting. I think you've mentioned this a lot in your recent videos as well. But there's just so much out there because of Tera that you need to kind of at least be aware of. It's almost impossible to have a team that has answers for everything. At bare minimum, you want to have answers for the main threats, whether that is a Pokemon or whether that is hazards or whether that is being aware of a knockoff user or whatever it is. But it's going to be impossible to have answers for every single thing out there in the metagame. You might just have something that's simply a bad matchup for you, and you kind of got to be aware of that and combat it the best you can. And it's interesting you mentioned that with it. I think these are really good and interesting points because initially where it's like, hey, Tera actually gives me an out where maybe previously I wouldn't have had an out before if I'm able to get a good defensive Tera type or if I'm able to Tera and do enough damage to kind of get myself out of a sticky situation. But now we're seeing the opposite end of the spectrum where Tera actually paints a lot of these other Pokemon into a corner where it's like, all right, well, I can't really do anything about this if my Pixelate Hyper Voice on my Sylveon is going to get walled by a Steel type when it was supposed to be hitting this Dragon type. It's like, what am I supposed to do about that?
Yeah.
So that's I think those are really interesting points.
I do think it would have been really interesting because I wasn't sure if I loved, I'm still kind of like debating on it now, but like I'm not sure if I love that every Pokemon had access to every type. Like, and I don't know how you would have changed, like how they would have like changed that either. But it would have been interesting if like certain Pokemon had only access to certain types in their Terastalization forms or something like that. Because I feel like, I mean, like you're saying, because like with the Sylveon's example for the situation, it's just like you literally. Like it just because like with the type uniqueness and the type importance being such a viable or such an important part of viability for a Pokemon, like kind of like how you were saying in there, like if there's a Pokemon that needs the typing to be unique or needs the typing to be powerful, because of like ability and things like that. So like Sylveon with Pixelate, and then having it's an extra strong, more bulky fairy type, but like when anything can become a steel type, it really does eclipse certain aspects of like the power creep like we're mentioning with that. And I think and I don't know exactly how I balance it, but obviously I do think like Tera is overall a very fun mechanic, but I agree with that. And I haven't really, I like your points a lot. It's making me understand like there are still things that can be abused and really that still doesn't completely balance the game in all aspects. It makes it so there's certain Pokemon who still get left behind, and like you said, it's kind of ruining some Pokemon's chances in the higher tiers. As before, they might have been able to play ball.
Yeah.
Really quick, kind of like getting into more into. I mean, we're talking about Tera. We've had about about a month maybe now to kind of sit with the Teal Masks update with the Indigo Discs update for Stella type. That's one of the ones I think is really interesting as well, to kind of see how Game Freak is like, we're going to add on a new layer to this mechanic as well, kind of midlife of the games. We're just kind of curious, what are your thoughts on stellar Tera typing, and besides like contrary abusers and things like that, is there any like sets or other Pokemon that you would recommend running stellar type?
Yeah, so as you said, obviously on contrary Pokemon, it's very, very much usable. Particularly Superior. I mean, a lot of people would question why that is, because they'll think, well, you get a more significant boost from Leaf Storm, and with Terra Blast Stellar not being even stab, the damage of Leaf Storm is almost the same. But there are like 10 4x grass resist in OU, so it really does need it. So it's really solid on Superior. Enamorus can run it for sure too. But as for on other Pokemon, I have yet to use it once. It is very, very niche. It's not good. The ability to change your type defensively is, even for really offensive Pokemon, is a major benefit. So you want to be, I mean, there are times. So I will say I could see running it on a Nasty Plot Darkrai. I could see running it on maybe like a heavy duty boot Zamazenta, where you just need like that little bit of power, but you really like your original type. Maybe a Deoxys Speed, mainly because that just could want a boost on a lot of its attacks. Like they run those Life Orb 4 attack sets, so you kind of get a lot of bang for your buck with the 1.2 times boost there. But for the most part, you don't want to run it. It's very, very unique, neat situations where you would want it. And that basically, if a Pokemon is offensive, really likes its original typing, and uses a lot of coverage and attacks, that's the point at which you might consider it.
Right. Interesting.
Right.
Do you think if and this is like out of curiosity for like the actually making it more viable, like do you think because like it gives you that stab on the for the first time for each of your moves, do you think if it removed all super, so let's say it made every type just neutral against you, do you think that would make it more viable, so it at least had some sort of
defensive utility to it?
Defensive utility, not necessarily a full-on resist, but like everything's just neutral. Do you think it'd be more viable then, or do you think that'd still probably be eclipsed by just the regular defensive power of regular Tera type?
I would say it would definitely still be eclipsed, because neutral is not great. You want to resist, right? Like when an Iron Valiant turns into a Steel type to become immune to Sludge Bomb and Toxic, and resists Rillaboom, Grassy Glide, and Dragonite Extreme Speed. There are so many benefits to that. So just being neutral, I mean, I think it would be, I'm not even sure it would be entirely better, because a lot of cases, things that are using Terra Stellar, would really like want to keep their original typing, because a type that's neutral against everything is not the best. I mean, you see not really a lot of normal types that are in prominent defensive roles. The one exception being Blissey, and that has everything to do with its massive, special defense, and nothing to do with its typing. Yeah. So, you could say if you've got a Pokemon with really good defensive stats, like I could see maybe an Iron Defense Corviknight using that, because it can like Terra and get out of whatever your opponent wants to use. Like it doesn't have to worry about any super effective hit. So I think it might be slightly better, but I still think it would see close to zero usage outside of contrary Pokemon.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I like those insights a lot. That's cool.
Kind of looking at the team building side, I think, what have been some of your favorite team building moments in this meta? Any new Pokemon that you particularly enjoy, whether it is a Paradoxmon, a Paldeanmon, or if it's someone who's come back with recent updates with a new buff, whether it's an ability or access to a new move, or just has a completely different context inside of a new metagame. What have you kind of really liked using or building?
Well, back in the first DLC, I think they released it a little bit before, I would say Rillaboom has been a really healthy addition to the metagame. Now, in Gen 8, I was not a fan of it, mainly because the extremely powerful kind of unconditional priority was a lot. And I thought it just, really, I thought it limited offensive play styles too much. And I stand by that. I think it's pretty toxic in Gen 8, but in Gen 9, because offensive playstyles got every buff in the world, they are now that we need Rillaboom, just having that option to put something on a team that can just hit anything. Like even the resisted hits, it does a lot of damage. Like it can do 35 to 40 to a Roaring Moon. Like that's good damage. And yeah, so I would say that was an extremely healthy addition. I really liked that. And then as for the the most recent DLC, I've been a big fan of Raging Bolt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually every time there's a new Pokemon that's like a top tier, I'm kind of against it, because often the more really strong, powerful top tiers you have, the harder it becomes to actually build teams that aren't just the same sort of copy paste like top 4 Pokemon type thing. But Raging Bolt is a unique mix of being really, really powerful, but also very healthy. So it's not hard to limit. Like when you're building, you don't feel like, oh my gosh, I forgot my Raging Bolt answer. Time to go and restructure everything. Like the way you can sometimes do with King Gambit or Gliscor or something like that. As long as you have it's stopped pretty much by Great Tusk. It's not that fast. You can run Substitute to mess it up. There are a lot of things you can do to limit a Raging Bolt.
That's cool.
Yet at the same time, that really powerful priority is great for limiting, once again, those really powerful offensive play styles. It's really fun to use, and it's finally it's a great Zapdos switch in. I hate Zapdos. Right. It annoys me. So it does a lot of good things and it's not miserable to handle in the team builder. And that's a really rare case of a Pokemon that's just super powerful, but really not a problem.
Well designed. Well, on top of that, it's a long neck Raikou. How can you? You can't get much better than that.
Oh my god, yeah, the design though. When I first saw it, I was like, "Good God, no, I hate this." But
what is this abomination?
No, but now I've forgiven it for its appearance, for what it has done to the competitive scene.
I think at first I was so taken aback with some of these, but once I kind of accepted, especially the past Paradox Mons for what they're sort of intended to be, which is these atrocities and Pokemon that might not even technically be real by canon standards, just Pokemon that resemble, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's at first I was like, what in the world are they doing? I'm like, okay, I guess if that's kind of what they're going for with this, and so then when Gouging Fire comes out, I'm like, all right, cool, Triceratops. Entei, let's do it. Why not? Sure. But I think it's a note of a really good, well-designed Pokemon, like you said, one that it clearly has power, clearly should be in the metagame, and is a welcome addition to any team. Has a signature move, has a really good stat spread as well. But at the same time, it's not necessary. Like you said, even if you don't have an answer for it, you'll be okay. And you can have answers for it. I think it's a really well-designed Pokemon. So.
I love that, and I also think one of the things that design-wise with Raging Bolt that I think is hilarious is they basically just put Raikou head on a long neck, right? And it's just because there's Walking Wake, they at least kind of made it look more like a raptor. It wasn't just Suicune's head on a raptor's body.
It's literally Raikou on top of a long neck dinosaur. Oh, that's funny.
But that's an interesting one.
I just kind of love the call out there where it's it's interesting with Pokemon where it's you love the Swiss Army knives of the meta games and things like that, the ones that can do almost anything. But like you said, it's almost like when it has answers, it can kind of make the game more fun. Because it's I have to figure out something that works with this Pokemon rather than letting this Pokemon just take the lead. You really have to truly kind of build out an actual team rather than one really good Pokemon or 2 to 3 really good Pokemon and then just 2 to 3 in the back to take hits and be just punching bags. Kind of on that note, we're kind of curious because one of our favorite aspects of your channel is not just the competitive side but also the team building, theory crafting side of the of your channel as well. And so we're kind of curious, what are maybe some of the biggest team building pet peeves that you have, things that you just don't love doing or anything like that?
So is this things I'm annoyed to see other people do, or things that I'm annoyed that I have to do?
Maybe both. I'm curious on both. Yeah, with things that you have to put up with, but maybe other things when you see someone else create a team and you're like, don't do that. That's not good. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So as for like the things I'll start with that because that's probably the easier question to answer. I'll kind of think in the back of my mind about that other one. But yeah, as for the things that I'm annoyed to do, I think one is having to add a great tusk to every team. And it's not necessarily every, but like there are options, right? You can run, Mouse Holds, Encino, Iron Treads on some rain teams. You can run Cinderace if your team is offensive enough that you can make sure the game ends before they stack hazards up again. So there are options, right? Like it's not completely great tusk, and you can of course run heavy duty boots spam too. But it feels like in a lot of cases, you have to put it on your team. Like if you're building a balance or trying to build any sort of a stable or reliable team that's not heavy duty boot spam, you're looking for removal. And then you've got this fake defog Corviknight that, when you want it to defog most, it's not going to be able to.
Right.
And then you look and you just say like, what are you going to do? Spin Quackleval? No, just accept it, put on the tusk. You have to run the tusk. So that's been a bit annoying. Wo-Chien being terrible. That's been annoying. I really wanted him to work. I like slugs, it's a shame.
It's just a bad typing. It's too bad.
Yeah. It's
grass dark, right?
Yeah, it's grass dark. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the shifter treatment, unfortunately.
Yeah, anything that's 4 times weak to U-turn is it's in for one. It's in for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Hoopa U is now RU borderline. So it's like
that's crazy.
It's or RU ban list. I forgot what it stands for, but it's that's insanely low. I mean, considering going from being banned in Gen 6 to unusable in Gen 9 is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I say it's the main one. Great tusk, and then also just all the threats to have to manage with Tera. Because I remember back in Gen 8, whenever I wanted to test a Pokemon out, I would put Slowbro, Ferrothorn, Landorus, Weavile on a team. And those 4 would pretty much cover the tier. And then you could just do whatever you wanted with the last 2 spots. And now it's like you really need to make the most of every slot. And even then, there's some Tera type, some bulky Dragon Dance Gouging Fire that's going to run through your entire team, and there's just nothing you can do about it. So that's like, I remember I was facing this guy. I was just messing around with hyper offense, and suddenly I run into the guy who was I think number 2 on the ladder at the time. Oh, wow. He switches in his Great Tusk to my Gouging Fire. I got HP investment. I hit him with the Tera Grass, and his Tusk is setup fodder, and then he loses, and I'm like, wow, this game, huh? So that's frustrating.
This game, man.
Yeah. So that's probably it. Just having to prepare for an insane amount of threats that has really never been seen before in any generation. Like Tera in the builder is in the game, it can be fun. In the builder, it is a unparalleled nightmare.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that big time.
Well, and it's interesting because oh no, you go. Sorry.
Go for it. I was okay. I'll move on to the second part after you've given your thoughts.
For sure, yeah. I was just going to say it's kind of interesting because there isn't and obviously, people who are, practicing on the VGC, like the VGC side of things, on Showdown, they're not having the open team sheets, but in the competitive scene, at least or the official competitive scene, they do get the open team sheets. So that does I think it's kind of an interesting thing where it's if singles were, on the official side of things, I wonder if having open team sheets might help with that kind of unpredictability and just the vast things. But it's just kind of interesting to see that variation, I would say, of how sometimes there's the 2 different sides of things where and I mean we've had this conversation in the past where sometimes people like to say the singles side of the competitive scene is not as hard as the VGC side because there's different states and stuff like that. But we've made the argument that things are it's a different game. It's like chess versus checkers. You're not playing the same game. And this is one of those. Well, just one other point I'd like to point out where it's in the actual competitive scene of VGC, they're getting the open team sheets, and singles isn't getting that. You're having to kind of just use the research that's done by the community itself and try your best to to plan for what you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I've heard that game states argument, like the thing where there are so many more possible states that can happen, and I don't really buy that as a
Yeah,
means
me
of
either.
deducing complexity. It's not really doing it for me, because I feel like when it comes to singles, and the main difference, the team sheets, I think is maybe a small portion, but what I think is really the big difference is just the amount of turns in the game, because when you're playing, like, you've got 4 Pokemon, and I mean there's no stall, right? There's no, everything is basically offensive. You occasionally have, I've heard there's a little bit of Glamora toxic substitute stuff going on, but for the most part it's very offensive. And a lot of times, like I've seen, or at least I recently watched a Wolf Glick video where he went over some of his VGC experiences, and I hear him so much saying, I needed to exactly predict what my opponent would do to win this game all the time. And I'm like, yeah, man, I just don't know if that's really extremely skillful, And yes, like, it is a skill to be able to really look and, stare into your opponent's soul and try to find out what they're doing. But in singles, that the fact that there's less going on, the fact that you don't just have 4 Pokemon, half of which are on the field at once, just slamming each other with moves and wondering if they'll click protect or not, you really have to think long term. You've got to think long term. You've got to create a plan. There are a lot more safe plays. Like, the concept of a mid ground is almost very rarely seen in VGC. So it's different in that sense. And yes, it is more complicated. I mean, having 2 Pokemon in the field, it undoubtedly makes turns more complicated and makes strategies more advanced when you have more options. Because, I mean, just playing in singles removes a ton of moves from the game, basically straight up.
Yeah.
So in that sense, yes, it's more complex. But I'd say just the length of the games and the rarity of those kind of hard prediction scenarios can let skill shine through in singles in sometimes a lot more than it can in VGC.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Well, each click just carries so much weight, just by essence of there being less states. Every click, whether you're going to switch or whether you're going to click a certain move, just it carries that much more weight, because I click and my opponent clicks, and that's the turn. And what's going to happen could really, like, a game can flip in 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns, and just like that. I mean, you have to. I like the concept of the mid ground plays, especially you mentioned that in one of your recent videos. We'll get to that here in a little bit, but before we have a few more questions before we kind of hop into some fun, lighthearted sections to end the episode off. But want to ask you, what changes would you like to see in some ensuing updates, assuming again that we don't get Generation 10 likely until the end of next year? Or would you just hope that we just kind of stabilize and hold true for like the next year and a half or so?
And so is this like for additional DLC type thing?
Yeah, either that or changes to tiering, or maybe if you have any sort of predictions on Pokemon that might move up or down.
Yeah, well, on the fantasy side, I'd like Megas to come back. That won't happen, so we'll leave that there. But I would like it. I would like that to come back. I guess on the DLC side, I think we're all set. I think we have a lot of resources in the metagame right now, and I think I'm ready for the metagame to stabilize and just work on it and have more of a long-term kind of development occur. So I would say I don't need any more DLCs. I mean, I certainly would like them to give some moves back. I think a lot of the move deletions hurt.
They took away a lot
of unique Pokemon more than the really stat heavy power. Like Lantern, my boy Lantern got massacred. He lost Heal Bell and Toxic, so it's like, well, this is an unusable Pokemon now.
Yeah, then what can it do now? Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, no, the niche is gone, because that Heal Bell, that's really what kept it cooking. But it's just so that would be nice to see, but that's not going to happen. So the Megas and Lantern, those are my two, my two dreams. But
I love it.
Bring back some Lantern love.
Yeah. As for the more realistic expectations, I guess talking about tiering. So one thing is there's this sleep debate going on right now about whether to ban sleeping moves or not. And I'm still undecided on how I feel about that. But I will say I do not want to be facing Hypnosis Darkrai in a year from now. Whether that means banning Darkrai or banning Sleep, one of the two, but it's very, very difficult to manage, especially with the Bad Dreams ability. And it's not good. I do not think Hypnosis Darkrai is a good Pokemon. But people will use it, and if it hits, it's a great Pokemon.
Yeah.
So that's just an unpleasant thing to have to manage.
And that's even with sleep clause, is what you're saying, right? Like that this debate's going on, right? Because oh wow, it's really interesting. I haven't seen that one yet, and like I don't know. I was just going to say, like, I don't know, and obviously continue your thought here too, but I was kind of curious, would you say, and this is just us thinking, as we're, if Nintendo did an update, like, how did you like the drowsy mechanic? Was that something that you thought was intriguing versus, like, would that be something that might solve this, or just kind of curious your thoughts there too?
Yeah, so I have a faint knowledge of what the drowsy mechanic is, but I never played any competitive scene. I think that was in Legends Arceus, right?
Yeah.
Could you explain what the drowsy mechanic is?
Yeah, so kind of how it worked from what like when and this is kind of the basic knowledge from playing the game. Like I didn't really look at like the super technical side of it, but like from basically it kind of worked like sort of like paralysis in a way where you could where like you might miss a turn. Like it wasn't like 100% that you were staying asleep. You could have a couple turns like where you might be drowsy and like your Pokemon like might just miss its turn, but it wasn't like a full on sleep mechanic where it's like you're for sure going to miss at least one turn. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and did that wear off? Kind of like confusion?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So it's like a hybrid of confusion and paralysis then?
Yeah, kinda.
I see.
Interesting.
Yeah, that I think that would be without a doubt a less prominent. So I imagine it's leaves if you switch out too, right?
Yes, I think so. I can't
so
remember
probably
100%, but I think so.
would be you'd probably be able to eliminate the sleep clause or drowsy. There wouldn't be a drowsy clause if that happened. That's significantly weaker than sleep. And yeah, I would say that would be a good addition. I think though that's honestly such a weak mechanic that you might be effectively removing sleep from the game, because like you see how many Pokemon are using Confuse Ray. And this is objectively like a worse, unless the odds are like a lot higher and different. I mean, this is a worse Confuse Ray. It's like they don't even get hurt. There's just nothing.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be super sad to see sleep go. I think a lot of status mechanics could use a little work. I think freeze is terrible.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Freeze is game ending.
Yeah, no, it's like I think Toxic and Burn are the two I have no problems with. Those are great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
As for the kind of like the sleep and with the current tiering system, undecided, but the Darkrai, either Darkrai or sleep has to go. And as for the people discussing a hypnosis ban, I could see that potentially being a thing as well, given a lot of the other sleep moves. I think maybe not every other sleep move, but very near every other sleep move grass types are immune to. And that kind of gives a secondary answer that hypnosis doesn't really have.
That's true. That's a good point.
That's really interesting. That's really, really cool. Kind of just see like that. I don't know. Like I just haven't seen like that discussion yet, and so it's kind of cool to kind of see that this the deciding factor as these things are kind of coming out and seeing how the community itself is like, hey, how are we going to balance this as best we can? What's the right option? And like because the thing is, I kind of feel sad if Darkrai gets banned entirely, because Darkrai itself is I feel like a mon that's kind of it's unique in a lot of ways, and just like it's like I don't want to lose that specific usage, that piece in the game, but it's like it's kind of a hard decision of, do we lose hypnosis, do we lose Darkrai, do we lose just Darkrai with hypnosis, things of that nature, right?
If you want, Jim Cool did do a video on it a few days ago as well, if you want to check that out.
I'll probably check that out afterward. That's really cool.
Before we move on to the next section, there's just one more thing I wanted to touch on while we're talking about tiering. Roaring Moon, we need to get it out of here right away.
Okay.
It's too much.
I was going to ask about Roaring Moon. I was going to ask about him.
No, we need to get him. He needs to go. Gouging Fire probably needs to go, but Roaring Moon definitely needs to go.
Roaring Moon, man, whenever that pops up, I'm just like, what are you going to do to me? And how are you going to ruin my day?
Yeah, like man, it can. I mean, they pull up with the the DD knockoff acrobatics, and then they could be brick break to ruin your Kingambit or earthquake to ruin your Kingambit in the last line. But then sometimes they click taunt, sometimes they click roost, and it's just it's like I look at a team and I think, okay, this team loses to a Roaring Moon set almost certainly. I would say at least 95% of teams are losing to one common set of Roaring Moon, and that's not good.
That's crazy. Yeah, I agree with that. And it's a really good call out.
I love that, and kind of this. I mean, kind of on this thought process of things that do need to go and don't need to go. Kind of when you are on the ladder, and you see a team. So obviously, Roaring Moon's one of them. What is mons that you love to see kind of getting the spotlight, or that you hate seeing getting too much ground, or hate seeing that they're just dominating the space. What's something that you're kind of is it maybe like you're seeing also play styles that you hate to fight against, like stall, hyper offense, balance, anything like that, like when you're just seeing that team preview? What are your reactions that you're seeing?
Yeah, well, as for play styles, I hate stall in theory, but I love facing it because I hate stall so much in theory. My teams, before I play any time on ladder, I am stall proofing that team. Like it is when I see a stall team, I'm rubbing my hands together, I'm grinning. It's going to be a good time. I don't think I think my win rate against stall teams is like in the high 90s.
Nice, that's awesome.
Like
nice.
It's just because there's really not much they can do if you prepare your team for stall. It's kind of a matchup check. It's like hey, did you remember that Blissey, Clodsire, Dondozo teams exist? And I say yes, I did, and thank you for the points. So that's
thank you for the elo.
That's yeah. So that's kind of I think the one that I like look at and like feel dread is probably hyper offense. Because that's the point at which I'm like, I could lose this, and even if I really played the best of my ability, this could be going downhill. And that's part of why it's so fun to ladder with hyper offense. Like, to quote, Walter White, I am the danger. When you play hyper offense, like you are the one who knocks, and it's really fun.
I love that.
That's amazing.
It's so good.
Yeah, so as for like the Pokemon that I like to see do well, generally things that have answers are strong, but like healthy. Like things like Raging Bolt. To give another example, I think things like Rillaboom are pretty healthy as well. Like Rain teams, Archaeoludon. These are Pokemon that are they're manageable, they're strong, but they're not too much. Things that I really hate to see are ones that are good sometimes based on luck, because I hate relying on I hate using Magma Storm on Heatran. I hate using Focus Blast. I hate running Hypnosis. So it's one of those cases in which you hate to use it and you hate to face it, because when you use it, it so frequently doesn't work. Like your Hypnosis, your Darkrai misses, or your Calm Mind, Hypnosis, Iron Valiant doesn't hit, and then you lose. So it's like you've given up a slot for something that's extremely inconsistent. But then you hit, and then you face it, and sometimes they'll hit you, and then it's just it's terrible on both ends. It's not good to use. It's not good to face. And so when I see things like that, I'm like, this is just terrible. So basically anything that relies on moves like that, like even in Gen 5 being like a mess of Pokemon that have to use Focus Blast, I'm not a fan of that generation as a whole.
Yeah.
So anything that relies on luck and is very good when that luck works, those are the Pokemon I hate.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. It's too bad, because even I know one of your big kind of leads to my next question, actually. One of your big tips is being aware of hacks, and if your team is derailed too much by hacks, then maybe your team could use some tweaking, right? Like if one miss, or if getting paralyzed by something really completely throws you off, then maybe you need to go back to the drawing board. But at the same time, I mean, it doesn't change the fact that having to deal with that or having to take those risks is any less annoying than it already is.
For sure.
I mean, kind of going on that, we referenced this earlier, things like making mid-ground plays, understanding how your opponent might be playing when they're ahead or behind in the match, things like that. What else could you add or build onto that or reiterate to our listeners who might be struggling with making some progress in matches?
Yeah, I say. So I guess so we've talked a bit about mid grounds. That's the most important thing. And just to go over that like quickly, that mainly the idea that instead of trying to predict exactly what your opponent does, you look at all their likely options and make a play that covers it well. And it may not cover any of those options the best, but by making plays like that throughout the game, that's how you get an advantage. And that's more easily observed with kind of balanced teams, sometimes with hyper offense. So you're not so much making mid grounds as just throwing in Pokemon and letting them die and keep throwing more at them. But in a lot of cases, especially when you're playing, balanced offense, bulky offense, whatever, mid grounds, the number one thing I see that keeps people in mid and low ladder when they have a lot of knowledge and a lot of other good things going for them.
Right.
I guess the other thing, if I had to pick something else, would be people playing not to lose instead of playing to win. In a lot of cases, it's very easy to just try to think turn by turn, as in like what's going to leave me with more health, and that's not a good way to think through your games. You need to, sometimes the right thing to do is sacking a Pokemon to get a better position so you can, then launch a counterattack. And I faced a lot of people, and I see in a lot of my tutoring sessions and other places, people not really playing aggressively. They play in a very passive way, and they lose slowly, but they lose a lot more because they're not willing, to take those swings when they need to.
You're right.
So yeah, like, accept that even if you have a bulky team, things are going to go down, things are going to faint, and you need to just accept that and make sure that when they do go down, you've positioned yourself in a way that you can hit your opponent back harder.
Nice.
Yeah,
no, that's
that.
really good insights right there, especially like the mid ground. I feel like that's something that not that I'm amazing at the game or anything like that, but we've done a draft league and things like that, and so I've played a lot of singles, but that's such a kind of a unique skill to grasp, and so kind of like being able to because it's not about predicting, it's kind of like about setting yourself up for the best way forward, and like either if you're ahead or behind, and so that's an interesting, I just kind of love that concept is, you're looking at the singles meta and the singles game, and this obviously applies to other aspects of the Pokemon game too, but it's really important in the singles aspect of just making sure that you're keeping pace with what could be coming, what isn't coming, and the inevitable drops of certain Pokemon, you know what I mean? And being able to figure that out. I kind of love that aspect. That's super, super cool. Kind of getting into the funner section. Not that this wasn't fun, but the kind of more lighthearted, less analytical side of things. We're kind of going to start getting into our rapid fire round. So how this kind of works is we'll be kind of firing off just little prompts, and then you kind of just give us what you think off the top of your head. There's no right or wrong answers, just your opinions. And so our first rapid fire thought for you is going to be your favorite new Paradox Pokemon from the DLCs.
Raging Bolt, without a doubt.
Okay, nice.
Really
Can't go wrong.
I love it.
Can't go wrong. You mean not Iron Leaves? Everyone loves Iron Leaves, right?
I love its design. Virizian's definitely my favorite of the 3 swords, or I think whatever it's called. But it's
Swords of Justice.
What it is competitively, but really cool design.
But
say that.
Totally.
I agree.
What is your personal favorite playstyle? Like, what do you enjoy using the most?
My favorite is balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. A little mid the road, or a little bit of everything in there. I like it.
Exactly.
And then your most overrated and underrated mon in this kind of this meta game that we're at right now. Like who's somebody like we talked about Roaring Moon a little bit, but like who's somebody that maybe another one that needs to go, and then who's somebody that needs some more shout outs.
I'll say overrated has got to be Ting-Lu. I know people don't exactly think Ting-Lu is incredible, but they think it's good. And I do not think it is. I believe this metagame has been extremely unkind to Ting-Lu. I think it's a pretty awful Pokemon right now. And there are some cases in which you want to use it, but I don't use it in a lot of my teams. When I do use it, it gets replaced almost every time. It's passive. There are so many things that stop it. It's food for Gliscor. Nobody's like, oh my god, Ting-Lu's great, but they're still using it, and I think it should drop. I think it should be like UU or UUBL or something like that.
Yeah.
As for what's underrated, it's a good question. I feel like people usually, especially with the, how I said like everything's OU this gen. I think people are pretty good at identifying what's working. But I guess if I had to choose one, I would say Gliscor is actually a bit underrated right now. I think it's definitely still ban worthy, and we might see that happen. And it's just an extremely powerful Pokemon still.
Yeah. Gliscor's journey has been very interesting the last 6 months or so. That's a fun one. And I guess to plug one of your to plug a recent video, what about Indeedee, right? Indeedee climbing the ladder.
Yeah,
that was cool. That was fun.
I would not bring that team to a tournament. It was fun. I was sitting there just laddering, because I thought, okay, well maybe semi-size spam works. I'm like, I don't think this team's that good, but let's load it up. And then I win like 5 games and I'm 1980s. And I'm like, you know what? Let's start recording. I don't really have a lot of faith in it. I think it was kind of a fluke in a way. I got a good string of solid matchups, but realistically, I think it maybe, just maybe, like an Indeedee Deoxys speed, like semi-size spam kind of core can work, but I'm not optimistic. If I had to bet on it, I would say probably not.
It was still cool to see though. That popped up and I was like, oh yeah, for sure. I'm gonna eat lunch while I watch this one. This is gonna be a good one. That's awesome. Sweet. Well, for our final section here, these are our shower thoughts. This is just kind of the not necessarily having to do with competitive singles, but just kind of those random Pokemon thoughts that pop into your head over the course of the day. You're in the shower, you're driving to work, you're at the gym, you're going to classes, you're in class, and you're not thinking about class. Those kinds of things. So we have a few of those, and then we'll kind of wrap things up and ask you for some nuggets of wisdom. But first one I got for you here is, let's say you are in college in the Pokemon universe, and you need to write a paper on a specific Pokemon line. I'll even toss in if you want to do it on a mythical Pokemon or something like that.
Sure.
What Pokemon line or what mythical or what anything are you writing your paper about?
I would say something related to immortality. Maybe like, I don't know if that's something like Celebi can do, something like that.
Oh, okay.
I'm very interested in that idea.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one.
That's awesome.
I think a good one with that would maybe be Celebi, and I know Xerneas that creates life, so that might be something you can go like, what are the inherent powers it has to be able to create life out of something, and then I know Yveltal's lore is that it leeches off of everyone else, so I think those would be pretty cool. But I like that.
Those were great legendaries.
Oh yeah, they're great ones.
My next shower thought for you is, if you could make an ability, what would it do? So like just a new Pokemon ability that's custom for you, like that from you, what would it do?
Yeah, so I thought about this, and this thought just came to me, but I thought it would be really cool if a Pokemon could hold 2 items. It would be like a really mediocre Pokemon, something like maybe like 70 or 80 in all base stats. But, an ability, I don't know what you call it, maybe like Juggler or something, and it could like just have 2 items.
Oh yeah, that's sweet.
I feel like it would be so fun to use like 2 choice specs, or like a specs and a scarf or something like that.
That's
awesome. I like that. That's a really good idea. You could give it Focus Sash and something. I mean, like you could do a lot of fun things with that. That's super cool. And that makes Skill Swap really interesting too. I mean, like I don't know. Maybe like it would also have like the default if you didn't have an extra item. Maybe not. I don't know. That's a really cool idea. I like it. I like it a lot.
Next one I got for you is, let's say you get to choose I know you said you didn't look at Legends Arceus too much, but I know people are kind of speculating what might come next. Even just from like getting additional lore, being able to get, I know obviously Legends Arceus gave us a ton of new forms and Pokemon to play with that have been impactful, like Sneasler and Ursaluna and stuff like that. But let's say you get to choose which legendary or mythical is on the next Legends game. Which would you choose and why?
That's a great question. I would like to see Manaphy get some attention.
Nice.
That's just one of my favorites.
I love Manaphy.
And I think maybe like a whole one themed around those kind of 100 base stat mythicals could be cool. Because I feel like we don't really know a lot right now. Maybe that could be interesting.
I like that.
I was thinking about because I don't know, have you guys ever played like the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker before?
Oh yeah.
And just kind of the uniqueness of like the island hopping in that game. Like you could make this like a Legends Manaphy game. You could make that like kind of like similar vibes of like maybe you're a pirate or something like that. That'd be so cool. Like be on the waves and really get that lore, that meaty lore for Manaphy. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
I love it. Well, we appreciate you taking some time with us this morning. Again, really wanted to give you some more praise. I mean, it's I know I've learned a lot, and like I said, this is something that's really right up our alley. I've really enjoyed your content, not just talking to you right now, but being able to watch what you've pumped out over the last little bit. The insights you have, obviously, clearly a fantastic player, fantastic team builder, very kind, very helpful, very insightful. I couldn't say enough about the work that you're doing right now, the content that you're pumping out. Before we sign off, is there anything that you want to plug, whether it's your coaching videos you have coming out soon, anything like that? And then after plugging some stuff, leave us with some nuggets of wisdom, whether that's about life, whether that's about Pokemon itself, any sort of nuggets of wisdom you can leave our listeners with before we sign off here.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. That's really kind of you to say, and I appreciate the support. It's been really fun doing this with you guys. As for what I would plug, I'll just say if you're interested in tutoring, I guess the link will be in the description, I think.
Yep.
If I believe if this is on YouTube, or I'm not sure if Spotify or has that, but yeah. So that's if you're interested in signing up, feel free to get in contact with me. My Discord is just Pinkacross, exactly like the name you see on the screen now.
Awesome.
Feel free to get in contact with me on there. And as for wisdom, it's a good question. I think I'll hold off on the life wisdom. That's a little, we'll see. But Pokemon wisdom, I think that one I can manage. Let's see.
I love it.
Trying to think of what the biggest kind of like tip I would have for the current metagame is. I'll make it a simple one. Use priority. Use a lot of priority.
I love it.
I like it.
You are. I've been adding sometimes 2-3 priority users to my teams. It really helps. It doesn't fix the problems that are posed by gouging fire and roaring moon and all these others. But if you're really struggling and you feel like you're just constantly getting, run over by hyper offense teams, run a lot of priority. And the big 4: Raging Bolt, Rillaboom, Dragonite, and Kingambit.
Nice.
Make your life a little bit easier. I love it. So good. Well, on that beautiful note of, remember folks, use priority, spam it. It'll help you out. It'll get you out of some sticky situations. But on that note, we're going to go ahead and sign off. We'll be pumping some stuff out. We have some more interviews lined up ourselves. Of course, we'll be streaming. We're playing through a new game right now. We'll be posting whenever we go live as well. So if you guys are ever able to hop in and join us for a little bit, we always appreciate it. But until next time, this is Josh, Logan, and Pinkacross with Skill Link signing out.
See you guys.